What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode NBA Talk with Jay Money and the Shark, and special guest today, my guys. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. Everybody in the chat, Down to Earth, Alfonso Scott, Tim Hadler, everybody, man. We really appreciate you guys for tuning in today. We're gonna talk some NBA draft. We're gonna talk some teams, some players. We got an insider over here, so let's get to it. Shark, what's up with you, my guy? It's been a little while. How you been?
Excellent. It seems to be the word of the day every day, but I do feel damn good. We're so blessed to be here. Obviously, we're just saying the new campaign will start October 19th, but it is July 29th, NBA Draft 2021, a really interesting draft to discuss. And we're here for business, but we're here to chat NBA as well. It's the middle of the summer, and as an NBA commentator, along with, of course, the legend himself, Jay Money, we love the sport at the core of it as much as we do love to cap it. And this is a great opportunity to chat the sport itself. Brian Bevo, hailing from Pennsylvania, a school teacher in Arizona, now in Virginia. Bevo, a great commentator within the college basketball sphere, which is obviously integral when we're looking at these players who are mostly 18, 19 years old. Bevo, what's going on, brother?
Shark, Jay, man, thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it. Just watching a little Olympic basketball, watching the pros, but today is not about the pros. It is about the pros that are about to be some of the great college basketball players and some of the great international players that are going to be entering tonight's draft as well. And there's really a lot to look at, a lot of intrigue going on, a lot of picks going around, a lot of trades potentially happening. Big Ben Simmons news dropping today saying that they want to get it done today. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things that need to be discussed here. But more importantly, we are here to discuss the draft itself. Who are the key players and where might we see some players drop and maybe have a couple prop bets out there.
Mm. Yes, sir. And I think we're going to go straight to the number one pick. We want to discuss the teams briefly. I was going to just discuss because obviously as we do cap these teams, we do remember the campaign it was. And these teams are not really in the buy hat category very often. I think we made a lot of money in the fade hat category here. When you look at the Detroit Pistons, of course, they were not the odds-on favorite to get this pick. I do believe it was the Houston Rockets who effectively tanked really at the highest level of professionalism. But Detroit does fall in here. You get Saddiq Bey, the pride of Villanova. You get a bunch of young, sort of, I would say, almost fringe journeyman players as it would be going forward. I don't really see a lot of all-stars within this young group. And really just an interesting campaign it was. And Bevo, where are we going here? Where do you think we're going here? I think this is the chalk special. Vegas Dave is salivating somewhere in the streets of Vegas. But Bevo, talk to us on this one.
For any of you looking to pay off your mortgage, I have a minus 8,000 play for you. One pick overall. It's going to be Cade Cunningham out of Oklahoma State. Probably the safest pick. Maybe not necessarily the player with the highest ceiling, but somebody who is probably a safe bet to at some point be an all-star in his career. If I had a chance to describe Cade Cunningham, I would describe him as Luka light. He doesn't have the shooting ability that Luka has. Granted, he did shoot 43% at Oklahoma State, but when you add a higher volume of three-point shooting in the NBA, I don't really think that he's going to continue at that clip. But in terms of basketball IQ, in terms of being that taller point guard, maybe not necessarily athletic as a lot of point guards are, but just somebody who knows how to space the floor, somebody who has a very elite IQ level. Cade Cunningham is I don't see any situation, and it's been this way for a while, honestly, where people kind of realize Cade Cunningham is going to be the number one pick. This is a foregone conclusion. I like Cade a lot, and I think that's somebody that's going to make a really immediate impact for the Pistons, somebody in his first 3 years that could be an all-star.
Exactly. Yeah, I can see that as well. Obviously, Cade Cunningham, I did see some analytic guys, just a few of them, saying that, hey, they didn't necessarily think that he could be as good as some of these other players like Suggs, but I think it goes as well as team needs as well. We know that the Pistons have 4 point guards already on the roster, so then you want to try and get you a bigger small forward type power forward. I don't think Cade Cunningham, obviously he's not the point guard type of player, so it's all about the needs, and the Pistons, they need that kind of small forward type power forward. We know Cade Cunningham's only 6'8", but I feel like he's going to be. They only have one small forward on the roster, and that's Saddiq Bey. So it is something they really need to solidify. I feel like if it was maybe the Cavs that had number one, then we would see a different number one pick. I do think this goes along with what the need of the Pistons are. Sharp, what you think about that, my guy?
No, I totally agree. And I can't say I'm particularly well versed in watching Big 12 basketball. Obviously, growing up in the Northeast, and I think part of the reason why we're such NBA fans, NBA is a very metropolitan sport. College sports are definitely more of a rural community, rural environment. I have not watched him play a lot, but I do love the peripherals. I love 6'8". I love that body, and I think what Bebo said is highly applicable here. I think he's going to be a great pro. And I think let's move on. Pick number 2, Bebo, thoughts?
Number 2, in my opinion, this is the player who has the highest ceiling in this draft. Seems to be a foregone conclusion that the number 2 pick is going to be Jalen Green, the graduate from high school to the G League Ignite, right to the pros. And if I had to describe Jalen Green, I would pretty much consider him a Zach LaVine, Brad Beal mix. His athleticism and quickness on the first step is by far the best in the draft. He is a bona fide bucket getter. He is somebody that I could see being in the top 10 in scoring as early as year 2. He is, again, very athletic like LaVine, but very good off the dribble and creating his own shot like Brad Beal. I think Jalen Green has the highest ceiling of anybody in this class, and I think he's going to be a perfect fit for a Houston Rockets franchise who is missing that bona fide bucket getter in the void that James Harden left behind.
Exactly. Those are damn good points there. And once again, it fits perfectly with the Rockets roster. They don't have many shooting guards. We know that Avery Bradley is likely going to leave, some more guys as well. So the Rockets are really thin. And another reason why he could be the player with the most upside here, he's going to have a high usage rate with the Rockets as well. I think there may be some money to be made with the Rockets. They start to get a little comfortable with their coach towards the end of the year. Even though they were tanking, they still start to show the will to win, the will to fight. We know they have a young guy in Kevin Porter Jr. over there as well. So I think that it makes sense to get another shooting guard to pair with him. And I think we know that they're going to run and gun. So I think he's going to have a high usage rate, and with already having technically some NBA experience, not in the actual league, but still in the G League is close enough. It's better than actually going to college, in my opinion. So I mean, maybe college is good, but the G League, like I said, you're playing with NBA caliber players already. I think that fits him well for the Rockets, my guy.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really interesting dynamic going forward, as obviously we've only seen a few guys skip college in the last couple of years. First of all, to see how many guys just skip college as we go forward generationally, and the college game might become obsolete. And also just in terms of the quality of the product and how it transfers over to the NBA game. Bebo, you have any comments on that, just in terms of how these guys would come out of the G League versus, say, playing D1 college basketball?
I mean, I think this first official class of the G League Ignite, if you will, is really going to be could be a precedent going forward. How does Jalen Green's career go compared to Evan Mobley and Cade Cunningham? How does Dayshawn Nix, Isaiah Todd, 2 guys that are expected to go late first, early second? How do they evolve, as well as some of the prospects around them? That's going to be really a measuring stick overall, this initial class, as to see really what is the better option. And honestly, in my opinion, if Jalen Green had gone to college, I think you might see him going number 1 overall today. I think more people have had the opportunity to see Cade Cunningham. I think no matter how you look at it, college basketball, you're going to get more views, and more scouts are going to get an opportunity to see you, and more of the common fan is going to get an opportunity to see you. So, I mean, there's a lot of dynamics that really go into this, but I do think going forward, as you know, really, as a lot of players are looking to make that extra money. And I mean, who knows how the college basketball NIL bill factors into this too. So there really is a lot of changing landscapes in basketball, both college and early on in the NBA overall.
Yeah, I mean, when we look back on this in 25 years, Jay Money and I will be sitting here on the internet challenging the likes of Barstool sports supremacy. And we will look back on this and say to ourselves, remember that day we hosted Brian Bebo, and we were talking about, because this is really the beginning of a completely new professional environment in basketball. It's fascinating to watch, and we're going to see where it goes. Anyway, Jay, continue. Number 3, Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, so we know that it's supposed to be Mobley. I know that Mobley, he said that he didn't want to go to the Rockets. Like, simply put, he was like, all right, I'm not going to Houston, don't even bother trying to take me at 2, even if you wanted to or not. And I think it's a really good fit as well with him, with the Cavaliers. And now I know we're talking about this and mock drafts and all this, guys. One trade could really throw off a lot of things, in my opinion. So that's definitely something. I know that the Warriors are trying to move up. The Thunder, they have 3 draft picks. There was another heavily tanking team towards the end of the season. They have 3 picks in the first round, 6, and I believe it's like 22 and 23. Regardless, these guys could really try and make some moves as well. I mean, they could move back in the draft and try to stockpile even more draft picks. It wouldn't make sense to me, but hey, with Presti, he got some more stuff going on over there. But one thing I want to say, Cade Cunningham is from Arlington, Texas, so I, what I'm saying, got to give a shout out to him. Not too far from me. That's where my guy is from, so got to give a shout out to him. But yeah, Brian, what you think about that? What you think it's a lock for Mobley to go to the Cavs at number 3?
Barring a trade, I would say yes. But it was funny yesterday. Mobley was being interviewed, and they were asking him, who's your favorite NBA team growing up? He's like, man, I was a diehard Oklahoma City Thunder fan. Now, a kid from California saying he's a diehard Thunder fan, it sounds like somebody really doesn't want to go to Cleveland, and it sounds like somebody really wants a rumored team, as you mentioned, Jay, Oklahoma City, to perhaps trade up and get that pick. Now, Cleveland's asking price is pretty steep. They're already asking for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Oh, no. That ain't happening.
And I don't think I would do that. I don't think I would do that at all if I were Oklahoma City. The only player I'd even consider that for is probably either Cade or Jalen Green. But, yeah, it seems like Evan Mobley is going to be locked into that 3rd spot, barring any trades. And we know that the craziness of draft night, that could very well happen. Evan Mobley, another guy with a very high ceiling. If I had to describe him, I would say a more mobile LaMarcus Aldridge. He's much faster than LaMarcus Aldridge. He has that game that can step out and hit the shot from 15, 20 feet. Very good defensively around the rim. I saw a lot of Anthony Davis comparisons out there. I'm not sure I see that. I'm not sure he's that good defensively around the rim, but offensively, he's very polished and a lot of room to improve defensively. He's somebody that, again, very top-heavy draft. He's somebody that could be, an all-star within, 3-4 years in the start of his career.
Yeah, how do you think he would play into a front court with Jared Allen?
That's the whole thing. That's the thing, Shark. Not to cut you off, Brian, but that's the thing. They're trying to pair him with Jared Allen. We know that they have contract issue with Kevin Love, or he gets paid so much. But I mean, this guy, he even quit on Team USA. He quit on the Cavs last year. So just be interested to see what happened with Kevin Love there. And I think that really, opens the door for Mobley as well. And one more thing about Mobley, I love this guy. He made me so much money. I mean, the rest of the team as well, but Mobley made me a bunch of money with USC. So I'm already a fan of him, Brian.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the pairing with Allen. That has the ability to be one of the most dominant defensive post groups that you have in the NBA. We already know Jared Allen is an established NBA defender. He is one of the better post players from the defensive wise in the NBA. And with Mobley really bringing more of an offensive feel to it, I think he's better offensively than Jared Allen. I think this could be a very, very good long-term pick for the Cleveland Cavaliers, especially to go with Colin Sexton and Darius Garland.
Shark, I was about to say one thing. They've been shopping Colin Sexton pretty heavily, in my opinion. I also think that lead, because if I'm not mistaken, the Cavs have 3 draft picks as well. It's either the Rockets or they got at least 2 draft picks in this first round. But if they do, I think that might incline them to take a point guard if they do, because I think they're really shopping Sexton. They're saying he might go to the Knicks, Shark, but I think they're heavily shopping Sexton, and we know that he got into it with some teammates last year as well, and entered turmoil in the locker room. So I think Sexton is pretty much gone, and I think that the Cavs will likely take a point guard in this draft.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great, and I don't really know if I'm being perfectly honest. My inner beat writer does not exist. There is no Brian Windhorst in the Shark, and but when it comes down to it, I think that's great. I mean, obviously Colin Sexton has ostracized himself. I think even going back to his rookie campaign, they were talking about how his basketball quality was horrendous. I think it was in training camp. They were saying this guy can't even ball. And of course, he is very good. Let's not kid ourselves. Highly athletic, great off the dribble, can shoot, and obviously an SEC product as well. And I think, Jay, you were really high on another SEC product we will discuss shortly. But I think if they do move him, the Knicks are probably, in my opinion, just as a fan, not what I'm looking for. I'm being honest. I don't really like disrupting what we have going here. I'm also generally a bit of a natural contrarian. I like guys that come in the second round. I like my man Emmanuel quickly. I like what they're building there. I think you don't necessarily need to have top 5 picks to win titles. Obviously look at Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, guys like that. I think what the Knicks are building with RJ Barrett obviously being a flex 1-2, and of course, a lot of other young pieces. I don't necessarily love Sexton on the Knicks, but let's not get stuck on the next pick, number 4, Toronto Raptors. Bevo, comments?
Yeah, we got the Toronto Raptors coming in at we got Toronto Raptors coming in at number 4, and all signs are pointing to them taking Jalen Suggs, point guard out of Gonzaga. Has been some rumors going around that the Raptors are looking to part ways with Pascal Siakam. And if that were to happen, that can change things up a little bit. The only other person to be considered really at this spot besides Jalen Suggs is Scotty Barnes, small forward out of Florida State. But right now it's looking like Jalen Suggs is slotted to be in that spot. Jalen Suggs, to me, comparison-wise, would be Drew Holiday. In your grill defensively, a straight-up dog in your face. And that's how Jalen Suggs comes with that intensity. An improving offensive game, not necessarily a sharpshooter from 3, but somebody that can get the ball to the rim, great distributor, and overall, again, defensively, is probably his defense is probably his best skill. When I watch Jalen Suggs, I really see a lot of Drew Holiday in him.
I like Drew Holiday. I love Drew Holiday, and they don't make him like that anymore. They play. My guy just won the championship, fly 15 hours on a plane, and he goes over there. He's the best player on the team, Team USA. I know they lost, but he comes picking up 94 feet. Who does that, man? After just coming up from party. But anyway, Suggs, you got to respect the hell out of Suggs. And one thing, he said himself, he's never really just focused everything in on playing basketball. As good as he was always focused on other things, then playing basketball as well. So now he's really being able to mold his craft in the NBA, and I think these teams are going to get him ready. And it's interesting you say that, because obviously he's the favorite to go to the Raptors, but they're also going to get rid of Kyle Lowry. Like, Lowry's gone, and we know that they didn't really get anything for him as well. So Lowry can pretty much walk. They will need another point guard, and it's also interesting that you mention about Siakam. I'm not a big fan of Siakam. He's one of the problems I feel like with this league. He got paid his money, and his workout ethic really left him, in my opinion. Before he got paid, he was a damn good player. Then when he got paid, it's like, everything's expected. Just one-on-one basketball. He really got away from what he was doing. So that's just my thoughts on this, Sharp.
Yeah. One comment on Siakam. I don't know if I'm willing to categorize him as being a contract chaser. I do think that the team last year was very fractured, and I think the motivation was scattered between really living out, a championship veteran group while also trying to tank. Of course, they didn't really come out and say they're tanking. I don't think, at least. Of course, we could go to my guy who knows a guy for that insider knowledge, but they were tanking. I mean, they were letting games go, and they would cover a game at home. They showed up against the Jazz, I remember, and covered for us. But they were all over the grid. Anyway, they ended up with a number 4 pick. So it's clearly a complete reboot. And I think if you're a Toronto fan, you got to be excited about this, because one thing in professional sports that's really brutal is when teams hold on to something for too long. You got to know when to cut your losses. You win a title, you have an aging group, cut it and reboot and get a new window going. And I think this is a very good upstart moment for this franchise.
Yeah, and I mean, with the Raptors, I mean, if you cut the ties with Siakam, you still have a good group to build around with potentially Jalen Suggs, with Fred VanVleet, and with OG Anunoby. I really think that you could see Toronto, if they don't deal him before the season, Siakam could be a trade deadline kind of guy, because as Jay mentioned, his work ethic and really his play has really dipped, especially since Kawhi Leonard has left. So this is really an interesting time, and I really think it's going to be indicative of where Toronto is going to go going forward. If Jalen Suggs is the pick, it's clear that Lowry's gone, and it's clear they're going to roll with Jalen Suggs and Fred VanVleet going forward, which is nothing wrong with that. Great duo.
Exactly. Last thing I'm going to say about Siakam, we're not going to make the whole show about him, but I do watch players very closely. You should never question their motor. Even if your team is bad, even if you're not playing at home, you having to play down in Florida. If you're a basketball player, athlete, professional athlete, period, you should never have to question your motor. And I also think it's something like the next team that's going to trade for him. It's also a thing like the player leaving anything. They should not have you dipping as much as Siakam did. I'm watching him out there, sloppy basketball, sloppy passes. He was not locked in mentally. That's where I go to. Before he got paid, he was locked in all the time. He looked like a baby Giannis or something. He got paid. You could just tell that these guys are not working on their game as much, like a Ben Simmons working on their free throws. That's the only thing I'm going to say. But,
And one final point on this. We won't make it all about Siakam, but we'll give him a good 2.5 minutes. When you go back to Drew Holiday, I think that's a good example of a guy who was actually on middling franchises for most of his career. You look at the Pelicans, you look at a couple other teams, and he showed up every day. As you say, he traveled overseas playing the Olympics after winning a title. Polar opposite mental makeup of that. But anyway, we should move forward. And we get 2 of the next 4 picks in my backyard, definitely not my fandom, but in my backyard, Orlando Magic. People, what do you think about the 5 and the 8 pick?
So Orlando is an interesting case right now. They seem to be locked in on Scotty Barnes at number 5, small forward out of Florida State, a guy that can play point guard at 6'9". I see Scotty Barnes as kind of a Draymond Green type of player. He's very good defensively. He can defend all positions on the floor, point guard to center. He's one of those dogs you want on your team. But what really intrigues me about this is that the Magic seemingly draft the same type of player every single year. Look back years ago with Jonathan Isaac, high ceiling, injuries, but never really amounted. Mo Bamba, high ceiling, never really amounted to it. And Scotty Barnes, same thing, high ceiling. Will he get there? And that is what I don't know right now. But it does seem like that is the direction the Magic are going in right now, is with Scotty Barnes overall. And number 8, man, there is so much. I really can't answer number 8 until we see what goes on with 6 and 7, because there's a lot of intrigue with those two picks right now, with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Golden State Warriors. A lot of people are saying the Warriors are going to trade that pick with another pick coming up right after that. A lot of people think that the Warriors are going to take one of those sharp shooting guards in James Bouknight, or maybe even Corey Kispert potentially. There's a lot of intrigue at number 7. So I really not really answer number 8 yet, because I really think the drafts is going to start at pick number 6. I think barring any trades, I think the top 5 are set. I think the top 5 are set with Cade, Green, Mobley, Suggs, and Barnes. And number 6 is really where you're going to see this draft begin.
Shark, I'll be honest, Shark and Brian, I'll be honest, guys. It's not that I'm a hater of Scotty Barnes. He's a damn good player. He's a really good athlete. The guy should not have been running point guard. Guys, a 6'8" point guard. Doesn't this remind you of Ben Simmons? You see what I'm saying? That has to rely on his athleticism. Can't really shoot. Not really a great shooter, but you know what I'm saying? Trying to make some good passes. Guy should not have been running point guard at Florida State, in my opinion. I think they're kind of throwing him out to the fire. If the Magic do take him, obviously, I mean, you can't have him trying to run guard over any NBA team. But the main thing, and the Magic have a new coach as well. I think that will come into play. Mobley, assistant coming from the Mavs. So kind of an offensive kind of mind. I think that he knows that the Magic already had defensive type players. You have to get some shooters out there. It's kind of crazy. Yesterday on SBR, I said, me personally, if I was a betting man, if I was to make a pick, I'd make a pick on the 5th overall pick to basically not be Scotty Barnes. I'd be looking at maybe Jonathan Kuminga, which now some latest mock drafts have him going at number 5, or even going at Kispert or something. You need some shooters. You need some knockdown 3-point shooters as well. I know that Kuminga has to work on his shot a little bit, but at least he has some form of experience pretty much already playing at a high level already. So I think that they should take Kuminga, maybe go my guy Moses Moody is a damn good 3-and-D guy. You get the defense and the 3-point shooting. I think that the Magic I don't think they should take Scotty Barnes, in my opinion. You have a bunch of type players like him, big type of forwards or whatever. So me personally, if you take Scotty Barnes, I think that would be a bad draft pick for the Mets. That's just my thinking. Obviously, I'm not the team, but I think they should get them a 3-and-D type of guy, or just a 3-point shooter, period. Shark, what do you think about that?
Yeah, this is the same GM that's drafted the last 4 or 5 years, correct?
I'm not totally sure, but I do know different coach for sure.
Bebo, do you know if it's the same GM?
I mean, I believe it is. I'm
only thinking in terms of the type you're saying they're drafting these, like, these upside type of dudes, Isaac, Bamba, whatever. I think, again, we talk about the psychology of capping the sport in terms of the games. It's the drafting, too. I think you could see Scotty Barnes only because of that reason. It's whatever's in this guy's mind. He likes projects. He likes athletes. He likes upside. And he doesn't like flair. I mean, you look at Kuminga. Kuminga's got flair, man. I mean, he can shoot. He can dance. He can drive. He can dunk. It's kind of the polar opposite prototype of a player. And if this GM has not really been drafting those players ever, then you ask yourself, just in that guy's mind, does he just not like drafting those type of players? And I think that could be the counterpoint to that. But in terms of the actual personnel, of course, I do think Jonathan Kuminga, coming out of the Congo, but high school in New Jersey, is a hell of a prospect coming in here.
Kuminga, the one thing he needs to work on is his outside shooting. And for he came in at a 28% clip. That needs to improve. I see Kuminga as, honestly, and we mentioned him already, kind of like a Pascal Siakam type of player. High athleticism, high ceiling, still a little bit raw. but definitely a very, very high upside. And if he can keep that same motor that Siakam is lacking right now, I think Kuminga could be a good pick at 5. But the reports are out there that Kuminga might slide a little bit because the Magic seem to be locked in on Barnes at number 5. Number 6, it seems like the Oklahoma City really, really like James Bouknight coming in. And then at number 7, a lot of directions the Warriors can go in, but latest reports could be another international guy in the Australian kid, the 18-year-old Josh Giddey. Led the NBL, same like LaMelo Ball came out of, led the NBL at age 18 in assists. So he is a distributor there. And then I don't see the Magic at number 8 taking Kuminga after they take Barnes at number 5. They could go in the direction of a Moses Moody or a Corey Kispert, as we alluded to. So I really think that Kuminga could slide a little bit. And I don't want to, go ahead here, but I may or may not have a bet on Kuminga, a draft prop there, and it's going to be an over.
So I can dig it. So we'll leave that till the end of the show, and you can drop the official here. But I want to ask you about the Warriors, because the Warriors obviously are sandwiched in between 2 Magic picks. And they do have 2 picks. Was this from the Wiggins trade? Is that where they got this from Minnesota? You guys know about that?
Yeah, it has to be. Yeah, it has to be, right?
So. I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so from the Wiggins trade, they end up with this top 10 pick. And then the question you ask yourself here is, are they really going to pick up enough quality in a rookie draft to take them to an NBA championship in the next 3 years? Let me continue on this for a second. I was talking to somebody on the internet yesterday who was basically saying there is value in the draft, and I disagree. I think there's anomalies, of course. LeBron James in 2003, a couple other guys. You get LeBron James in 2003 and you plug him into Steph Curry, age 31 years old. Okay, you're going to win a title probably. I don't care if LeBron's 18 or 19, but this draft is not littered with superstar players. Even the top of the draft, we really don't necessarily have an absolute marquee Hall of Fame quality talent here. And I think they need to package this, and they need to figure out a way to put a bunch of solid, the conversation's all Bradley Beal, obviously Lillard, but it's not Lillard, Bradley Beal and a couple other guys. They need to pack the bench. If you go back to pre-Durant, when the Warriors won the title, their bench was incredibly deep. And I think that's where they need to go. They need to figure out a way to get a lot of solid veterans and role players that can really, bolster the 7 through 12 here.
That's what I was about to say, Shark. For one thing, I do think this draft is absolutely loaded. I think there's some guys in the 10-15 range that in different years would go in like number 1. Like literally, I feel like different years, Moses Moody could be a number 1 type of pick. All year they were saying Suggs was basically the number 1 pick, right? I mean, then you got we know Cunningham as well, but Suggs, he could have definitely been a number 1 pick. So, but regardless of that, the Warriors, in my opinion, it's just my take. I do think their championship window is over. I'm not a big fan of Kerr. I think that was a largely part of them. I mean, having Kevin Durant as well, but they won it before him. That's when you had Klay Thompson at 100% though. So he's coming back. I love Klay Thompson. I love two-way type of guys. They don't make them like that anymore. That play just as hard on offense than they do defense. But the Warriors, just like you said, Shark, they had veterans. They had a veteran bench. Guys like Barbosa. You know what I'm saying? They had veterans. Now they got way too many young guys, man. I really do think. And Draymond Green's starting to get a lot older. I mean, hey, he dyes that beard black, and before the game's over, his gray's already starting to pop out, man. But Steph Curry, he's 33 already. You see what I'm saying? When you're starting to get older, those injuries are really get to nagging on you. But the backup point guard, Nico Manning, these guys definitely have to get backup guards. They got to do something. They got to get more bigs as well. The Warriors have a lot of problems to fix, more than people think. And if they make a trade, that's only losing more assets. They're not giving up Beal for just draft picks, man. So if you're going to really have to bolster their roster or move up in the draft, you're only losing. I feel like they have to draft some guys, not necessarily move up, make some good key free agent signings. It's not over, but I do think that they have a lot more work than people think. And I'm still not. I'll go back to coaching. I'm not a big fan of Kerr. And I think it's also starting to show with this USA team as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you go back, they did win the title with Kerr, of course. The one thing I do look at, I do think the mental makeup of this group is still right where it was. I think Draymond Green is effectively a player coach out there. He's an energy body. And I think Draymond can potentially become an NBA coach post-career. We always talk about Chris Paul, but I think Draymond's tracking that direction as well. So I don't necessarily know that Steve Kerr is really a determinant of their success or not as much as people might say. Of course, you look at Luke Walton going 28-3 with this group. That kind of speaks to the fact that, again, it is group driven as opposed to coach driven. And but again, I think the key point here is this bench is poor, it's young, and it lacks depth. I haven't gone through it in terms of the free agents, but I know Montrezl Harrell is out there.
They need him.
I think he'd be a great fit coming in there. And a couple other guys. I saw Terrence Ross is being rumored to go to the Knicks. I wouldn't mind Terrence Ross on the Warriors, couple wing shooters, because when you really look at who they had back then, it was bodies. Andrew Bogut was a starting center. Maurice Spates out of UF, 6'10" guy, stroking the three. As you said, Leandro Barbosa, Sean Livingston. But Sean Livingston was coming off of a apocalyptic injury with the Clippers.
He's a veteran, though. He was a veteran.
Exactly. And I think that's the model they have to go here. I think they have the core. I think Klay Thompson will bounce back. As you said, he's a great two-way player. He's one of my favorite players in league history, to be honest. I love his game, his mental makeup. But, again, this is about who they surround them with, and it is not going to be rookies, in my opinion. Bevo, anything on this?
I think how the Warriors need to approach this draft is the draft picks they make need to be picks that can contribute next year. And if they were to take a Josh Giddey, for example, at number 7, I don't think that really helps them too much next year. So maybe that is a pick that, they do look to trade somewhere and get someone of value. What I do like, though, is that pick coming up at number 12. There are a couple options there that can help them next year. And 2 players come to mind. Number 1, Davion Mitchell, player out of Baylor last year, a phenomenal 3-and-D guy, somebody who has that mentality that can come in and help Golden State next year. Somebody that doesn't need to have 2 to 3 years to season, because let's be honest, this Warriors window doesn't have 2 to 3 more years left. I think next year might be really one of their last opportunities to really make a run at it, depending on what they do with free agent signings. So I look at Davion Mitchell as a potential draft pick there. Another guy, and I saw it alluded to in the comments, is somebody that's being slept on a little bit, Chris Duarte out of Oregon, another knockdown shooter. And I think the Warriors do need another shooter off the bench right now. We know they have Steph Curry. We know they have Klay Thompson, 2 of the greatest shooters in NBA history, if not the 2 greatest shooters in NBA history. And I think you're going to need that guy off the bench because Curry gets banged up often. He's getting old. Who knows if he can run, 40 minutes a game anymore. Klay Thompson coming off an Achilles injury, which is, as we know, probably the worst injury you can have in sports. So you're going to need that guy off the bench that's going to be a shooter. And I do think that Davion Mitchell and Chris Duarte are 2 guys that they could target at number 12. But I agree with you guys completely in saying that they need to get players that can contribute next year. And I don't think that at number 7, drafting a guy like Josh Giddey or Jonathan Kuminga would be necessarily smart.
No, definitely not. And, you made the comment, you think they have 1 year in their window. Vegas odds makers agree. They are the 4th highest probability in the futures market to win the title next year, which would surprise a lot of people. And I think it speaks to what we're saying about the fact that Klay, Steph, and Draymond do have enough energy. They are not 37 years old like LeBron James. They are in their early 30s. There's a big gap there, if we're being really honest. And I think one other point, the league right now is not really in any sort of sustained place in a hierarchy position. I don't think the Milwaukee Bucks are any sort of lock to repeat at all. I think the Suns were a bit of flash in the pan. They caught teams that were injured. LeBron James and AD had issues all year. The Clippers had all sorts of shit going on as well. I think basically this top 4 probability is more a reflection of the league being in complete turmoil from a hierarchy standpoint than it is necessarily of the Dubs' quality being so excellent.
Shark, you said the Warriors are the 4th favorite
as of 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
No, I don't. I may even place a bet that they don't make the playoffs. I know it's far. It's so bad because they're. I mean, we're not going to talk about the Warriors. I know, even though Shark isn't in California, I do think Warriors might be one of his favorite teams. But regardless, I mean, the Warriors not going to be bad. It's so tough because if Curry does happen to go down, I just feel like the Warriors are so top heavy. Like I say, as far as coaching, yeah, Draymond Green, he's probably a good coach, but I'm not a fan of Curry. I'm not. And you said it, Shark. You said it. When you can go 20 28 3 with Luke Walton. That just goes to show you that they don't really care. In basketball in high school, my coach was terrible. We're going out there making our own plays, calling our own plays, and we were really good. It was the players that did it. So I just feel like when it gets down to it, I mean, maybe they could get 7th, 8th seed or play in tournament, but I really do feel like there's a new, like, Nuggets, the Suns, the Lakers, the Clippers in the West over there. The Warriors, their reign in the West is over. Maybe if they were in the East or something, but they definitely need a 3-and-D guy. Brian, I'm really glad that you said that. They need 3-and-D type of guys, because even their young guys off the bench, they are not. I mean, even Poole, it's tough, man, because they kind of made a few bad draft picks. Not saying that Poole won't be great, but he definitely didn't transcend to what they thought that he was going to be.
Yeah, one final point on that in terms of the West playoff structure next year. I don't think the Warriors are necessarily going to be finding problems with, the Lakers, Clippers, Suns. I think what you're going to see is a shift in the quality of some of these fringe teams. Like we talk about Sacramento Kings, New Orleans Pelicans, and Memphis Grizzlies. We can segue to the Grizzlies pick here at number 10 now, obviously having made a trade. But the Grizzlies are right on the cusp. The Grizzlies are very young. Very young. People don't realize this because the quality is so high with a guy like Ja Morant. But the guy, he's 21 years old, something like that. I mean, these are young men. I mean, the league, you don't win championships in this league until you're 28 years old usually. And these guys are already in the playoffs. They did take down the Warriors, the aforementioned Jay hating Warriors in the playing game.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, I think one of the biggest intrigue points in terms of looking at the structure of the league next year are going to be these fringe young teams and where they could potentially move up to 7, 6, and 5 seeds.
Got you.
Yeah. Overall, I mean, like I said, like with the West structure overall, I mean, I really think you see the Warriors at that 4th probability because of name recognition. People still have that connection to the Warriors of the past with Clay and with Steph and with Draymond. And with that team all really being back together, I mean, when's the last time they all played together? I mean, has it been? It hasn't been since the 2019 finals, I believe, against the Raptors. So these guys haven't played together. And honestly, I think that could be a struggling point for the Warriors early on, getting that chemistry back, because that's really what those Warriors teams were built off of, was that immense chemistry level that those three had together. And I think it might take a little bit of time to get that back overall. And I also love your point with the Grizzlies. And this is an interesting thing that they did here in the past, was it 2 days ago, to move up to number 10 overall.
Mm-hmm.
They moved up to number 10. They took on the Eric Bledsoe contract, which was holding the Pelicans back immensely. The Pelicans actually slid back 7 spots to get rid of that contract.
Mm-hmm.
And Memphis moved up to number 10, and they're going to be looking to make a move now as well. Now the question is, what does Memphis need? And in my opinion, I mean, they have Ja, but they need that point guard off the bench. Mm-hmm. I know sometimes Grayson Allen comes off the bench and can run point sometimes, but I think they need that guard off the bench. And the rumor is, and this is if the Warriors don't take him at 7, the rumor is that the Grizzlies are very high on the Australian kid, Josh Giddey. They were very keen on moving up to grab him, and that could be a spot that I could see him landing if the Warriors don't take him at number 7, which I don't think they should. But I do think that Giddey is another potential spot for the Grizzlies coming off the bench. Again, that distributor off the bench for a team that has a lot of great shooters. I mean, you look at the Grizzlies team, there are a lot of really good shooters on that team. Jaren Jackson can step out and knock him down. A guy that came in and made an immediate impact last year, Desmond Bane, knockdown shooter from the outside. So Giddey could be somebody that can come and play that distributor role.
Yeah, just 2 more things for me, Shark, before we get to some bets. Wrap it up, my guys. I mean, I could do this shit all day, I must say, but we'll wrap it up here pretty soon. The Grizzlies, they will be something to watch for, guys. I know they got rid of Valanciunas, but they got back Steven Adams, who's damn near just as good as Valanciunas. Can't shoot threes, but he is. I mean, there's a bunch that I could say. Steven Adams is starting to work on his 3, try to get a little better. I do think that's something that you could teach as far as work ethic. If you have that's what I just want to go back to the Magic and Kuminga one more time. If the work ethic is there, then you can teach shooting if you're working on it pretty much all summer. It can happen, Ben Simmons. You can shoot for, just some people just don't have touch. But trust me, guys, if you work on something, shoot 1,000 shots a day, you will get better. You can literally develop the skill if you don't have it, if you put the work with it. That's anything in life. So it's just a motivation for you guys. But the Grizzlies will be really good next year, guys. I did see something about Dylan Brooks may get some of his contract, or he's an unrestricted free agent or something like that. He could possibly be going, but regardless, the Grizzlies are some dogs. They have a young core. They'll likely still be together for the most part. Really good coaching as well, as my guy Shark always points out. And another thing, the Pelicans, they got a new coach. They have an actual coach now. The Pelicans will make the playoffs this year. I can damn near guarantee it. We know that Zion hadn't really got there yet. This year, Zion Wilson will be in the playoffs as long as he doesn't get hurt. They got Valanciunas over there. They got rid of Bledsoe. They're not re-signing Lonzo Ball from what I'm hearing. Possibly, but I'm not a fan of it. I can't wait to see what Willie Green does from the Suns. A really young guy as well. Should be a really good player type coach, Shark, for the Pelicans. I can't wait for next year. It's going to be so locked and loaded. Grizzlies and Pelicans, definitely two teams to watch out for in the West. And the Blazers likely not in the playoffs as well, so that's giving them more room for some teams that didn't make it in there. Pelicans, Grizzlies, guys. I think they're in the playoffs for damn sure, Shark. But we could get to some bets. I know, Brian, you might have some bets. That's what the people are really here for. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah, Brian, please drop what you have here.
All right, so I am coming through with 4 plays overall. I said I was going to have 3, but I'm going to have 4. First play, and be aware, the people listening here, that you may have to lay some juice here as news comes out about what teams are going to be looking to be doing. The odds go up. A week ago, Scotty Barnes under 5.5 was minus 140. Now it's minus 400. So I'm not saying taking minus 400, but I know we got my first play here got James Bouknight under 6.5. I do think he goes to Oklahoma City. I think that's going to be the direction the Thunder go in. They need someone to pair with SGA. So I didn't think that Bouknight under 6.5 is a solid spot. Second play I got under 10.5 for Josh Giddey. I think that if the Warriors don't take him, I think the Grizzlies will snatch him up. So I do think that those are two teams that have already been rumored to be in on him. So I think that under 10.5 there is a solid spot. Third play, over, and I alluded to this before, over 7.5 for Jonathan Kuminga. I don't think the Magic are going to snatch him up at number 5. And there's no scenario for me in which I see the Warriors or the Thunder take him at 7 and 6 respectively. So I think Kuminga slides a little bit in this draft. And then my final play overall, we didn't really talk about this kid. Another international player coming over from Spain, played for Real Madrid last year, Usman Garuba. He is the backup center for the Spanish national team this year, only 19 years old. Really, when you break it down, reminds me of a more mobile Tristan Thompson. He's somebody that I think can have a lot of success in this league, but I don't think the total, which currently sits at 15.5 for him, I don't think he's going just after the lottery. I think he's somebody that you could see probably go somewhere in the 18 to 25 range, anywhere between there. So I do think that Usman Garuba is going to be after the 15th pick. So again, to recap these, we got Bouknight under 6.5. We got Josh Giddey under 10.5. We got Usman Garuba over 15.5, and we got Jonathan Kuminga over 7.5.
Sounds solid to me, man. It sounds solid to me, Shark. Anything else for you? You want to wrap up with, my guy, or what? Before we get out of here.
Nothing official for me, but as I made the comment on my little teaser stream, I'm probably going to play a half unit on these, and I didn't look at the juice yet, so I'm not sure exactly what we're dealing with. But we will post those, and we will put them out there because, again, people have to understand it's a probability market. When it goes from 150 to 450, they're telling you it's almost a 2-to-1 shot as opposed to a 1 to 10 shot. It's only a probability. So we're going to look at this and we're going to dominate it, and we are so thankful for you guys tuning in. It's been a while. It's been since I think Game 4 of the NBA Finals, and of course October 19th. We will be on here with some shows for the summer league, and we'll see these guys obviously coming straight business into the streets of Orlando and Vegas, I think, and it's going to be a hell of a campaign. 2 weeks, young grinder basketball. Shark Waters Nation, 9 Words of Lifestyle. Roderick out of the water. J Money, close them out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Brian, my guy, coming on with me. First time ever on the show, man. So appreciate it. Did a damn good job coming, giving 4 picks. Me and Shark didn't have picks. We don't really do the draft bets, but so we appreciate you for getting the people some picks, man, because I didn't have many for them. But everybody in the chat, man, my guy Simba, I need money, field trip, everybody, man. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. You guys are here every day. You guys really make the show as well. There's no show without the chat. We're not just trying to come up here and talk to just us. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we could do it, we would do it, but it's nice to have some guys in the chat interacting with us as well, guys. So we appreciate everybody for tuning in. I'm your host, Jay Money. That's my guy, Shark. Go follow him on Twitter at Shark and Sports. Go follow my guy, Brian, as well. Brian Bevo 10, if I'm not mistaken. So we appreciate everybody for tuning in, guys. We will be back with plenty of NBA content, NBA talk. As soon as after the draft, they will announce summer league lineups, guys. I'll likely have some plays in the summer league for sure. So appreciate you guys. NBA talk with Jay Money. Y'all know what we do, man. We out.